What's up? What's up? This is RJ from Track God Sound. We're going to go ahead and get into Track God 2. Specifically in this video, we're going to get into the touch sensitivity, aka velocity variation within Track God 2. It's going to make your beat sound crazy. It's going to give them some more depth. It's going to give them some more life. And that way, when people are listening to your beats, they're going to be like, they're going to hear your regular stuff, but then they're going to hear this extra depth and they're going to be like, okay, yep, I can rock with this because it's going to sound more human. So enough with all the talking. I'm just going to go ahead and play an example of what we got. As you can tell, if you look down here, you can tell that if you can hear the delay that's going on, it's like a hyper delay. That's what I call it. I'm going to actually show you how to do this trick within this video just a little later. But if you listen real close, you'll notice that as the notes get harder, which would be this harder one here, you'll notice that the delay starts to take more effect. So let's listen. So let's actually just space it out so you can really hear it. And that's basically what the touch sensitivity, or as we call it, velocity variation in Track God 2, that's all that it is. It's going to allow your beats, and specifically your melodies or your chords, to have a different character depending on whether you push the note hard or if you push it super soft or somewhere in between. So that's essentially what we're going to break down in this video. We're going to go through about 6 of these knobs. There is a total of about 14, but we're going to go through maybe about 6 in this video. We'll have another video where we go into even more depth and go into all of them. So let's go ahead and break this down. We're going to start with volume, which is the easiest one to understand. And right now, this has no velocity variation on it. So right now, this melody is very static. And to make it even more obvious, we're just going to make all of the notes the same, and we're going to see if we hear a difference. Did you hear a difference? Because I certainly didn't. So now let's just simply crank this volume knob up. Again, remember, this is easy to do. Now, hopefully you can hear it ramping up. So that was just the volume being applied. That was just volume. Now, remember, we have all this other stuff is cooler. Volume is definitely essential. It's very basic, but it is one that you will find useful. But now let's try some funner stuff. So we're going to actually crank this off, and we're going to try the low pass filter. Now, this is how the low pass filter sounds without the velocity variation. Again, it's static and you hear no difference, but let's go ahead and crank this sensitivity, this low pass velocity variation, aka velocity variation within Track God 2. We're going to have other, a little more obvious by actually cranking the low pass filter down a little bit. And hopefully you can hear the difference. Now, the next thing we're going to do is actually we're going to put a melody back there so that we're not getting bored with this one note thing. You know, so that's what that 3D analogy is all about. You know, it's just we wanted this video to be focused. You know, your melody isn't stuck. It's very fun two-dimensional velocity variation, non-moving surface. It's actually going to give your beats more depth. It's going to make them sound more realistic, more fun. We can actually let's get our melody sound hyper in here. So obviously that one is going to sound like it has some hyper reality set up here. Was that it was ramping up and down. It's going to sound like it has some hyper reality to it. I don't even know. Sometimes when you're playing a melody, it's not necessarily going to go up. That's what it's going to sound like. It's going to sound correct. Is something more, but like that's what it's going to sound like. It's going to make your beats sound even more crazy. But that's what it's going to sound like. It's going to make your beats. But that's what it's going to sound like. It's going to make your beats sound even more crazy. You know, so that's what if you already got some dope. It's going to make your beats sound even more crazy. You can try to double this up, but that's it to where the low pass filter and the volume is affecting it. You know. You can apply as many as you want. If you apply too many, maybe it'll sound confusing. I don't know, but it's definitely something that you can experiment with. The next thing we're going to try is one of my favorites. Now, I call it a hyper delay. Let's go ahead and turn this low pass filter off. I don't know what it's actually supposed to be called, but I don't care. I'll call it a hyper delay effect. But essentially what it is, this is the secret one that I was telling you about. There is a certain way you have to set this up. Otherwise, the delay could sound very messy depending on how you set it up. So this right here is the secret. This is one of my favorites to use. And so essentially what it is, we're going to use this knob over here. But let's go ahead and turn the delay on first. And let's see what we have without the delay. So you can start, so that's what the delay effect actually sounds like. Now, Let's make it cooler by actually turning the velocity variation delay knob on and hearing the difference as it ramps up. So the way that I have it set up is very important. Otherwise, the delay is kind of useless. But the way that I have it set up is that, first of all, my time is very quick, because if we have a long time, it's very delayed and it's just random. So I do have it set at 78. Now, mind you, you can set the delay. Either you can set it based on tempo, or you can set it based on time. Because I want to make it very quick, I'm going to go ahead and just make it based on time. And I'm going to go around 78. It's one of my favorites, one of my personal favorites. But again, it's taste. Now, if you want to get to a specific time, you can hold Alt and Control at the same time. That way you can get within those crevices. And bam, I'm at 78. This is where I like to be. Another very important thing about this hyper delay is that my demp is set to high pass. Now the demp is essentially saying that, okay, you have your regular sound, and then you have your delay. The source of the delay is obviously your regular sound. But if you don't have a demp on, the delay is essentially going to sound like just a lower version of your original sound. But if you have the demp on, now your delay is not just going to be a lower and echoed version of your sound. It's going to be the echo. It is going to get lower over time, but right from the start, it's going to be less in your face. If particularly here for the high pass delay, the delay effect is going to be less in your face, because you're going to start filtering out the lower frequencies. Now, just as an example, just in case that explanation was just a little too much or not clearly stated, we'll just do it audio wise. So this is the delay with the damping. This is the delay without the damping. So it's all in your face, but once you add that damping in there, it's not so much in your face. So those are two important things so far. So we have the time, we have the damp. Now another thing that I have is the stereo mode on. Now this one is honestly a taste thing, because without it on, it sounds good still. It's just a different effect. The difference is the stereo. When you have stereo on, it's going to ping pong between your right ear and your left ear, your right speaker, your left speaker. And then the very last thing I have for this hyper delay effect is that my feed is up a great. It's at 83%. So that's the secret sauce on getting that hyper delay effect within Track God 2. Now, I don't know another VST that you can do this in. I use most of the popular VSTs out there to actually create sounds and to make my beats. I don't just use Track God 2. So I'm not bashing any other VST that's out there, but there are certain things within Track God 2 that just aren't present in other VSTs. Applying this delay to sound different based on how hard you hit the notes, I just haven't seen that yet. So if you do happen to get Track God 2, you want some exclusive stuff. You know what I mean? All right, so now let's get into another effect. Now, just in case you're getting bored, I'm going to go ahead and use a different sound, which is this one. It's called Metro Acoustic within the Metro Thuggin. Yes, this sound is made from scratch. No, it's not stolen, but it sounds so acoustic. Listen. Sort of like a hybrid piano / guitar. It's actually kind of hard to identify it, because it's based off of like a guitar, but it's not really a guitar. So that's another thing you get in Track God 2. You get some pretty dope sounds, especially in this Metro Thuggin pack. So back into the sound. So we're actually going to get into distortion. Let's see how distortion sounds on this sound. So again, before we actually turn it on, oops. So before we actually move this knob, let's see what the distortion sounds like. So there's nothing being applied yet. Let's crank this up a little. Start hearing some distortion. So hopefully you can hear that it's more crunchy, but let's play it just to make sure that's on. Turn the mix up a little more. Obviously, that's a little too crazy to keep it going for the whole time. So we're going to crank this distortion knob up. That way, when we play softer, we don't get as much distortion. Now, if you're satisfied with it, you can leave it. If not, then you would just, mess with the settings a little more. And that's distortion being applied. So now we're going to go ahead and turn that off.